establishing and maintaining healthy relationship. Before we start, let's have a quick introduction about our speaker. Anuttama Chitra Devidas is a counseling psychologist by profession and has an experience of working as assistant professor of psychology for 2 years. She is a department topper and a university rank holder from Madras University. She is trained in advanced counseling from Chennai Counseling Services and had attended various other workshops, training programs in mindfulness, cognitive behavioral therapy, psychodrama, digital de-addiction, suicide prevention, gestalt therapy, and arts therapy, to name a few. She has been practicing Krishna consciousness for 7 years. She is a very amazing person and an excellent motivating speaker. She delivers rich thought-provoking content, which will really help you in coping up with real-life issues as well as enrich devotion in your life. This session is conducted by IYS Girls Chennai. IYS is ISKCON Youth Services of Chennai Temple. It is a forum created by women, for women, and of women. Here we discuss and learn to practically apply ancient spiritual wisdom in our modern contemporary lives. We also conduct specially curated sessions to address modern issues with Vedic principles and take pleasure in discussing various aspects of spirituality. If you are unable to attend any of these sessions, you can hear our recordings. The link for our YouTube channel will be shared shortly in the chat window. ISKCON Youth Services groups are available in Telegram, Facebook, and WhatsApp. To get instant notifications about our sessions, you can click the subscribe button in our YouTube channel. In IYS groups, we share spiritually inspiring messages, darshan pictures, and announcements for various programs, events, or festivals. If you have any questions during the session, please post them in the chat window and the facilitator will respond to your queries. If you have any personal queries or you need personal guidance, you may write to us in the email ID, which will be shared in the chat window. Also, we request you to fill the feedback form towards the end of the session. This will help us to serve you better. We really value your suggestions and your opinion matter to us. Maintaining a relationship is the most difficult thing nowadays. While thinking this, another question comes in mind. Are we establishing a healthy relationship? So let's see this in detail. Please welcome Anuttama Chitra Devidasi.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shripriya, for the detailed introduction.
Hare Krishna, Anuttama Chitra, before you begin, Sukirti Madhvi here, and I'm very eager to hear from you because this is such an exciting topic, and we are all into relationship with our parents, with our friends, with our teachers, with our bosses, sometimes difficult relationship, sometimes okay relationships, sometimes those relationship becomes bitter. So I'm sure that this session has something for everyone who has joined here. And personally speaking, so yes, Shripriya has given such a beautiful introduction of Anuttama Chitra as how she is university topper and gold medalist and so many achievements on her account. But the most wonderful part, which I guess we did not cover there, is she is a wonderful devotee. She has been practicing Krishna consciousness for more than 10 years. She was in 9th standard when she got the Bhagavatam set and she started reading Bhagavatam. So that is how amazing she is, and she has a lot of maturity in Vedic scriptures. So though she is very young, but I feel so proud because I have been mentoring her for so many years and I have seen what she has become, how she had come and what she has become. So it gives me so much joy to welcome Anuttama Chitra here. Hare Krishna, Anu.
Hare Krishna, Sukirti Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Please keep me in your prayers. All right. So thank you all for joining today's session. So we'll first start off with knowing what relationship is. So if we need to know what relationship is, we usually refer to dictionary. So the Merriam-Webster dictionary, it defines relationship this way. So it is basically a way in which two or more people, groups, countries talk to each other, or they behave towards each other, or they deal with each other. So the way in which these things happen, that is relationship. So basically, a relationship from this we can see, it indicates a sense of connection, an attachment, or a bond between people. It need not always be romantic. Uh, so it can be relationships with family, it can be relationships in workplace, relationships with friends, in school settings. It can sometimes be personal, professional, formal, informal. So all of these come under the bracket of the term relationships. All right. So what is healthy relationship? Now, healthy relationship is basically a connection between two secure people. Now, quote unquote, secure. That is the key term. So, who are not threatened by the other person's successes. They see the potentials in each other. Even if I fail to notice the potential in me, the other person would notice the potentials in me and thereby support and encourage each other. Now, that is what healthy relationships are about. However, we do face problems in relationships. We have occasional fights, we have misunderstandings, jealousy, arguments, etc. So let's say a pastime and pastime from Srimad Bhagavatam and decode some of the relationship lessons from that. All right. So this pastime comes in fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and it involves Daksha, Shiva, and Sati. So once upon a time, what happens? Daksha, who's a Prajapati, he organizes a very grand yajna, for which he invites several personalities, including many sages, brahmanas, demigods, and even exalted personalities like Brahma and Lord Shiva. Now, the moment Daksha enters the arena, everybody gets up and greets him, except two personalities, namely Lord Brahma and Shiva. Both of them remain seated. And of course, they are not obliged to get up either because they are very exalted and they are worthy of offering respects to. They are worthy of worship. So Daksha offers respects to Brahma. However, he gets angry when he notices that Shiva doesn't get up. He gets very offended because his daughter is the wife of Lord Shiva. So he thinks, what an audacity he has. He's my son-in-law. How can he not offer respects to me? So what happens is he starts insulting and humiliating Shiva publicly. So he addresses everybody, oh sages, brahmanas, demigods assembled here, please listen attentively to what I have to say. So, and then he starts speaking about gentle manners, and then he says how Lord Shiva has polluted this path of gentle manners because and also because he has failed to stand up when his father-in-law is entering the arena, and how he's shameless and doesn't know how to act. Daksha goes ahead and says that Shiva has accepted to be my subordinate by marrying my daughter Sati, yet he doesn't stand up to receive me. Any civilized being would offer respects to others and know how to behave with others, but his inability to offer respects show how uncivilized Shiva is. And he goes ahead and curses Lord Shiva that Lord Shiva will not be offered any oblations and any sacrifices. And so saying, Daksha leaves the arena. And then Lord Shiva's personal carrier, Nandishwara, he becomes angry with Daksha and all of those brahmanas who had silently witnessed Daksha cursing and humiliating Lord Shiva. And Nandishwara also pronounces certain curses against them. And then the moment Nandishwara curses, Bhrigumuni, who's one amongst those brahmanas, he also gets offended and he starts cursing Nandishwara and curses Lord Shiva and his followers. So like this, there was back and forth exchange of cursing and counter cursing happening. And seeing this, Lord Shiva kind of gets a little upset. He becomes morose. He doesn't say anything, and then he leaves the sacrificial arena. Later, Daksha performs another yajna for which he invites all demigods, again, all exalted personalities except Lord Shiva and his wife Sati. So Sati, what happens is she sees in the sky that there are so many celestial planes going. There are so many demigods and their wives decorated, so beautifully. And she goes to Lord Shiva and she expresses her desire to attend the yajna and meet all her sisters and relatives. So Lord Shiva tells her, he asks her not to go there because both of them were not invited. So he explains to her how Daksha was envious of him and had insulted him with cruel words in the fire sacrifice few days ago. So on one hand, he understands Sati's desire that she also is to her father is just as much important to her as her husband is. But then he's genuinely concerned about Sati's well-being, and he goes on and warns her, that he kind of foresees that if Sati goes there, there might be an issue happening whereby she would be insulted. And Lord Shiva warns her that, words of insult from a close relative can be more cruel and painful than being attacked by weapons of an enemy. So he even interestingly says this point that, he who is, Prabhupada writes in the purport that, he who is the giver of your body may also become the taker of your body. However, Sati kind of becomes upset. She was expecting that, she could go along with Lord Shiva to attend the sacrificial arena. But when she sees that, Shiva is asking her not to go, she kind of gets a little upset. And despite the warning which Shiva gave her, she goes to the sacrificial arena. When she arrived there, none of them received her with any proper respect due to fear of Daksha, of what Daksha may do. So except her mother and sisters. So, and then she notices that in the sacrifice, no oblations are offered to Lord Shiva. And her father, though he notices that she had come, he does not go ahead and receive her. He rather shows a very cold shoulder to her. So she becomes angry and sorrowful. So what happens is she starts calling out Daksha for his disrespectful behavior and attitude towards her husband, Lord Shiva. So she starts glorifying Shiva and how, Daksha is being very offensive in, insulting a personality as glorious as Lord Shiva. So she says how Lord Shiva is so pure and auspicious, how he has no enemy, and he is a well-wisher of everyone, who's worshipped even by great personalities such as Brahma and various demigods. And the conversation goes on, like it's quite detailed. But then towards the end, she proclaims to Daksha that she's ashamed of her bodily connection with her father, who's a great offender. So she's also known as Dakshayini because she's Daksha's daughter. So what she does is she decides to give up her body. And she meditates, and through the process of yogic meditation, she invokes fire elements, and thereby she burns her body. So after this, what happens, you can read in Canto 4 of Bhagavatam. So Lord Shiva gets enraged and then he beheads Daksha, and a lot of things happen. But until here, there are a lot of lessons we can learn. So the first lesson would be disharmony in relationship. It often happens when we sometimes fail to understand the currencies of the other person. So we don't understand the value of exchanges. Now, by exchanges, I'll give you an example. So a son might expect a father to express his love by spending time with him. But then the father's way of expressing affection could be buying gifts for the son, for which he may have to earn money and for which he would be busy with work, with office. And he may not get time to spend time with his son. However, he still loves his son. But then the son may still feel unloved because his father is not spending time with him. So therefore, the currency of love for the son is spending time, whereas for father, the currency of love is giving gifts. So this is one of the reasons why sometimes disharmony happens. So what we need to do about this is we learn to communicate our needs, our love languages. So what actions make you feel loved and cared in that relationship? For example, for some people, simply just listening to what they have to say could be an expression of care. They may feel cared. Sometimes giving gifts could be a love language. Sometimes helping them, offering some acts of service, helping them when they are in need, offering support. That could be another, way of expressing love. And for somebody else, just a pat on shoulder or hugging them, they could feel cared and comforted. So check with the other person, especially if it is an intimate relationship. Check with them. It can be, again, anybody, family, friends, romantic relationships. So check with them what the love language in that relationship is, so that both of you are on the same page. So this is something Daksha failed to do. So he failed to communicate his need. His need was to be respected. So instead of doing it, communicating it respectfully, he directly goes ahead and starts blaspheming Lord Shiva. So this is one lesson we can learn. Second lesson is, when issues arise, address them and sort them out. Don't overlook them, don't ignore them. If you're unable to communicate something because you're emotionally very overwhelmed, like let's say you're very angry and you want some time and space, then take that for yourself. Take some time and space for yourself. Allow yourself to feel those emotions and sort them out. And generally avoid speaking when you are angry, because when you are angry, you may end up saying things which you will kind of regret later. So finally, once you have sorted out your emotions, when you're more calm and relaxed, bring up the issue and then address them. And if these issues are not sorted through communication, what happens is these can become something like those seeds which are sown in the ground. If you kind of bury the seeds in the ground, what happens is it may sometimes sprout and it may gradually grow into a bush or a tree. So similarly, when these issues are not sorted out, when you kind of bury them, what happens is they kind of sprout and grow into further complications in future. For example, anger towards a loved one, if that is unaddressed, it can later turn into hatred, or it can turn into resentment. So what happens is, when some arguments happen in future, you would go back to the past and you would keep pointing finger at, you did this and this to me in the past, you did this, so you be quiet, so that it kind of complicates the issue. Third life lesson. When you ask someone to do something, like when you tell them that, do this, clarify your intentions, explain it to them. So for instance, if you're telling a child that, don't play beyond this fence, your reason may, you may genuinely keep the safety of the child in your mind. Probably beyond the fence, there is a ditch and you don't want the child to, get hurt or injured. However, when we don't explain it, sometimes, a child in this case may get curious and may actually want to go beyond the fence and explore why you're telling, why are you asking them not to play there. So therefore, it becomes essential. And sometimes we may end up saying something, the other person may misunderstand it as me being rude or me trying to control them. So again, when you clarify your intentions, then the communication kind of becomes smooth, the transactions become smooth. So what we need to do is give your lens to them so that they can see through it and try to understand your view and your intentions. So similarly, if somebody else is asking you to do something, instead of arriving at some judgments or instead of jumping to conclusions, again, clarify intentions from them. For example, I was just listening to this case of a small child. So what happened? This is a real life incident. So whereby a child was brought to a psychiatrist by her parents, and the complaint of the parent was that the child seems to be exhibiting violent behavior. And the psychiatrist asked, what happened, what makes you feel that way? And then the parents said that she loves drawing and coloring, and of late she has been coloring everything red. So we are very genuinely concerned. It's as if she's depicting everything in the color of blood. And then the doctor kind of individually calls the child and starts speaking with them. And the child shows the pictures to the doctor. And the doctor sees that the child has colored everything in red. The river is also the color of red. The sky is also the color of red. the leaves on the trees are also the color of red. And then the doctor politely asked the child that, see, child, the river is usually the color of blue. Why is it that you have colored it red? And leaves are green in color. And again, why have you colored it red? And the child says that, yes, doctor, I colored all of those red because I lost my sharpener and my color pencils are blunt. Red is the only color, which is available. I don't use it frequently. So that is why for the past few days, I have been using this color. I'm kind of scared to, tell that I have lost the sharpener. So what happens is the reason is something as simple as her not having a sharpener. However, we can see that the parents had jumped to the conclusion that she is becoming violent. She's trying to become antisocial. So therefore, what is important is ask and discuss. So for instance, this can be noticed where Shiva is explaining the reasons to Sati to not go to the fire sacrifice. And if somebody is telling you something which, has in their mind your well-being, then do consider it, do give it a thought. Instead of bluntly refusing them, telling them, I cannot do what you are asking me to do regardless of your intentions. Their intentions are genuine. If it has your well-being in mind, do consider it, because for all you know, this can actually help. If you do what they tell you to do, you probably are saving yourself from a great danger in future. So that is the third lesson. Fourth one is, in any relationship, again, if it is intimate relationships, and even if it is professional relationships, make the person feel seen, heard, understood, and make them feel that they are important, especially more so in close relationships. So it is important for you to not just feel that they are important to you, but to show them that they are important to you, that you cherish them. Nobody likes being ignored. Nobody likes being seen as unimportant or neglected. In fact, neglect is a form of abuse in itself. It's a form of emotional abuse. So kind of ignoring them or not making them feel that way may make you seem as if you are impersonal or cold in that relationship. And as devotees, practicing devotees, we are personalists. So we see everyone as a person. Every soul is a person who's unique, wanted by, and special to Krishna. So therefore, that is another component we need to have in mind, that we make them feel that they are important to us. That is why we are still in relationship with them. Now, this is something Daksha failed to do. He ignored Sati. Again, ignoring, kind of almost neglecting, is a form of abuse. So we can see how much pain she was undergoing when she saw that her father, despite noticing her, was neglecting her. The fifth lesson would be, when someone is being vulnerable to you, don't laugh at them, or don't exploit it, or don't demean or dismiss it. It takes a lot of courage for them to share their vulnerabilities. They trust you. It takes a lot of courage, time and courage to trust you. So don't misuse their weaknesses or insecurities by constantly pointing it or pricking it, prodding it. So we need to try to help them, not hurt them. So support them during their vulnerable moments. So when Sati tried to visit her father, mother, sisters, after arguing with her husband, with whom she could wish she could come along with him, but then she couldn't because her husband refused to come. So that is already upsetting enough for her, because she's almost like kind of compromising on her husband in order to visit her other relatives. So all that she needed at that moment was being comforted. She was very vulnerable and sensitive at that moment. Comforting is all that she needed. However, we could see how Daksha offered a cold shoulder, and not just that, he insulted her husband, who's very important to her, by not offering him a seat in the sacrifice. So these are certain takeaways which we can get from this pastime. Now, what works in healthy relationships doesn't necessarily work in unhealthy relationships or toxic relationships, which we had discussed in our previous session. So therefore, we need to identify what differentiates healthy from unhealthy relationships. So healthy relationships, so what are the different dynamics? So it's more like, kind of distinguish between, you might have read in your schools, distinguish between this and this. So you would draw a column and then kind of differentiate. So something similar. So what does healthy relationship looks like, and what does unhealthy relationships look like? So for healthy relationships, for this distinguishing, I am again taking pastimes from Ramayana. So to me, Lord Rama is like the embodiment of healthy relationships, and Ravana is the embodiment of unhealthy relationships. So we'll kind of explore the dynamics in both of these, so we can develop a better understanding. All right. So Lord Ram. So relationships surrounding Lord Ram, we can see how these relationships are characterized by respect, kindness, trust, empathy, and these relationships kind of give that soft feeling. It feels calm, comforting. It's mutual, it's collaborative. Like it's not just one person doing something and the other person being passive and not doing anything, or one person being exclusively controlling while the other person feels violated. So it's more mutual, and there is tolerance, patience, honesty, whereby both of you are transparent with each other, and then there is gratitude. However, coming to unhealthy relationship, what does that look like? That is characterized by power, control, the need to control the other person, control their choices, control their aspirations, control what they think, what they feel, almost every move. So characterized by power, control, fear, lie, deceit, arrogance, disrespect, resentment, and envy. So these aspects of lie and deceit we can notice in how Ravana was trying to uh, almost seduce Mother Sita in several instances. So the first instance was where he disguised himself as a sage and tried to get her out of that boundary which Lakshmana had marked. And the second instance was where he tried to, through illusory tricks, try to convince Mother Sita that, he has killed Rama, he has beheaded Lord Ram, and, presenting his head, the illusory version. So we see how he's trying to use these forms of, cheat, lie, deceit, trying to induce fear. He also threatened Mother Sita, to submit herself to him, otherwise she would be killed. So that is what relationships with these people can feel like. So there is always that underlying sense of fear, with them. Second, in healthy relationships, every individual feels valued. Differences in opinions are also appreciated. So you acknowledge and respect it. So you may not agree with them, however, you appreciate it. You acknowledge the fact that we both are two different individuals. So obviously there is variegatedness between you and me. So you are allowed to have your opinion, and the other person is allowed to have their opinion, and they are not shamed for it. For example, so in this, there is this pastime where Vibhishana, after giving up the association of Ravana, he comes to the party of Lord Ram, and when he arrives, there are two separate groups. Like there is one group of Vanaras who are against allowing Vibhishana to join Lord Rama's army, and then there is another group who are like, let's give him a chance. So they are mostly Sugriva and Hanuman. So while Sugriva was kind of hesitant, and he even suggested to Lord Ram that we should kill Vibhishana because he's from the enemy camp, Hanuman had another opinion, and he also has a personal experience of observing Vibhishana. So he states a different opinion, telling that Vibhishana is a man of character, and if somebody is lying, that would become visible in their face. So from what I observed, Vibhishana is telling the truth that he has genuinely abandoned the association of Ravana and is wanting to take shelter unto your lotus feet. So therefore, I think he can be accepted. So both of them present their opinions to Lord Ram, and Lord Ram hears both of them, and then he goes ahead with Hanuman's decision. So he accepts Vibhishana. So when he does that, Sugriva kind of intervenes and says, but then what would happen to your safety, Rama? What if, just as how he has betrayed Ravana, what if he betrays you also? What if he tries to harm you? And then Lord Rama, he smiles. So he again doesn't chastise Sugriva for having his opinion. He instead smilingly responds to Sugriva, telling that, oh, Sugriva, do you really think that anybody can harm me? With just the tip of my fingers, I can annihilate the demons. So you do not have to worry about it. So he kind of very kindly reassures Sugriva that no harm would be done to him. In fact, he goes a step further, telling that even if Ravana himself surrenders unto me, I'm ready to accept him. So if that is the case, then why not Vibhishana? So thereby, Lord Rama did not kind of dismiss of Sugriva's argument, Sugriva's side of the Sugriva's opinion. He did not shame him, but rather he responded very politely as to why he went ahead with Hanuman's opinion. However, in unhealthy relationships, what does that look like? You don't feel valued as you are in healthy relationships. You feel like you are a commodity that that person may just use and throw you. Their relationships are always surrounded around them. So in case of Ravana, you can see his relationships are always centered around him. So it is his needs, his wants, desires, happiness. So with people like them, with unhealthy people, you constantly feel the need to be useful to them. Otherwise, there is that fear of, if I stop being useful to them, then they may throw me away, they may discard me. So, which is where we can see that all his demonic ministers, they constantly applaud him, they glorify him, though he's being selfish, cruel, and evil. They wanted to be in his good books. And then we see demigods also serve him because they feared losing their lives. So that's how relationships with unhealthy people are. Next, the question arises, then do fights not happen in healthy relationships? Definitely, fights do happen, even in healthy relationships. In fact, argument in healthy relationships can actually indicate that the relationship is at good health, because it shows that, the relationship is important enough for you to invest strong emotions in them. However, the arguments or fights in these relationships would look something like this. You argue, but respectfully. You do not insult the other person purposefully. You don't be contemptuous. You don't try to manipulate them, gaslight them, control them. It may sometimes be uncomfortable. Arguments don't necessarily always feel comforting. It can slightly be uncomfortable, but then you don't dread arguments. It's not like you are very anxious of having another argument. It kind of feels safe. Even if there is argument happening, even if it is uncomfortable, it's kind of safe because you know that there is an end to the argument. You both would be able to arrive at a common ground. Now here, in this case, again, this is not exactly a fight per se, but then there was a point where Lord Rama got angry with Lakshmana for leaving Sita alone. Again, we know this pastime. So when Sita chastises Lakshmana and tells him that, you go to the forest and see where Lord Ram is. I feel he's in danger. So there are some exchanges happening between Lakshmana and Sita says some quite painful words. And immediately Lakshmana departs. He draws the boundary around the cottage, and then he starts searching for Lord Ram. And when he finds that Lord Ram is safe, he's kind of relieved, but then Lord Ram gets angry with Lakshmana for leaving Sita alone. So he chastises Lakshmana for his fault. Such a behavior, oh Lakshmana, does not behove your personality. Again, when you read those dialogues, the way Lord Ram chastises him, it's not like he character assassinates Lakshmana or he humiliates him heartlessly. So it's kind of more, though he's chastising him, it's kind of from a very respectful stance, from the elder brother stance, keeping in mind that they also have relationship, and their relationship between these two are also that of love. So there is no crossing boundaries when the chastising happens. And Lakshmana also understood Lord Rama's mood, and he remained silent because he understood that Lord Ram's anger was circumstantial and it was valid. So, because this was anger arising out of fear of losing Sita or fear of her being harmed. So, instead of getting offended and angry with Lord Ram, he continued staying by Rama's side. He did not abandon Lord Ram simply because Lord Ram was angry with him. He instead tolerated it and he was patient. So, again, as I had mentioned, relationships around healthy people are characterized by patience and tolerance. However, in unhealthy relationships, fights happen, and they can be ugly, dirty, can be quite aversive. It's because these unhealthy people or toxic people, they kind of look forward for winning the arguments. They look forward to having the last word in every conversation. So fights usually seem very scary. They can be quite disrespectful, mean, and hurtful. So they are also very clever at arguing. It's like they're almost like kind of lawyers. They're very clever at arguing. They always turn whatever words you tell them, they almost always twist your words to kind of suit their narrative. So with them, you always feel helpless and hopeless when it comes to fighting or arguments. And as I had mentioned before in the previous session on toxic people, how Ravana had insulted Vibhishana. Like, you can even go and read Ramayana, like what all Ravana tells to Vibhishana. He uses some really harsh words when Vibhishana gently requests Ravana to return Sita to Rama. And after hearing those words from Ravana, Vibhishana finally decides to leave him. So both of them are brothers in this healthy relationship and the unhealthy relationship. But we see how, though the nature of relationship is same, how the dynamics are different because the relationship is unhealthy or because the other person is toxic. Third is, in healthy relationships, your intentions are appreciated and you're encouraged to act to the best of your potentials. So, for instance, again, in this, when the bridge was getting built on the river in their journey towards Lanka, there was Hanuman and other mighty warrior Vanaras who were using big boulders, writing the name of Lord Ram in those stones and in those boulders, and then building the bridge. And then there were some small birds, small squirrels, which were also trying to assist Rama in building that bridge. And when Hanuman was going, he noticed that these small creatures are kind of being a disturbance. They may get crushed in the process of Vanaras going back and forth. So he kind of tries to show them away. But then Lord Rama, he stops Hanuman and he tells Hanuman that, oh Hanuman, just as how you are trying to serve me to the best of your capacity, to the best of your potential, the squirrel is trying to serve me to the best of its potential. So to Rama, both of them are equal because he's bhavagrahi. He looks at the intention, the mood in both Hanuman or all the Vanaras or these little creatures is ultimately to serve Rama. So it is that intention which Lord Rama accepts gratefully. So they are never jealous of you in healthy relationships. They are grateful for your help. For instance, we can see how Hanuman has superhuman strengths, but Lord Ram never envied Hanuman. Like, though Lord Ram is the supreme Lord, but still he took the form of a human and he experienced human experiences, human feelings, human emotions. So he played the role of a human being. However, Lord Ram never envied Hanuman, though he had superhuman strength, and instead he encouraged and he trusted Hanuman with almost impossible tasks. And when Hanuman was able to accomplish them, he was very grateful for his sake. Now, with unhealthy relationships, what does that look like? They can accept nothing short of you being a slave to their desires. They can become blind to your intentions, even if you are genuine, and they are envious of your achievements, of your strengths. They can get jealous, and the jealous is kind of it's not the ordinary type of jealous. It's almost as if where they are very envious of you, that they deep down wish that you could fail so that they could rejoice your failures. You know, it's almost that range. All right. Next, in healthy relationships, there is a sense of unity because we work as we. It's collaborative. However, in unhealthy relationships, it's characterized by someone being very critical, very demanding. It's not collaborative. It's either my way or highway. The next is, in healthy relationships, people are ready to make compromises, they are ready to make sacrifices. And we can see how, in several instances, Lord Ram had sacrificed his own comforts, his own people for the greater good. However, in unhealthy relationships, they are ready to sacrifice others for their selfish interests. They are not ready to make sacrifices. So they are unwilling to make any compromises, no negotiation possible. It always kind of feels one-sided. It feels as if only you are making the sacrifice, and the other people is, and the other person is only receiving. You know. So finally, if we need to give an analogy of what a healthy and an unhealthy relationship look like, healthy relationship would look something like a straight road with few bumps here and there. Unhealthy relationships would feel like a roller coaster ride. It may kind of sometimes seem exciting at first, but it becomes distressing later. All right. So I hope this helps you understand that what works in healthy relationship doesn't always work in unhealthy relationship, and what you need to do in unhealthy relationship, you can check out the previous session on toxic people. So here we are discussing primarily the healthy relationships. All right. So another important thing when it comes to relationships, healthy relationships, is forming boundaries. Now, what are boundaries? So boundaries are kind of the rules of interaction. So the do's and don'ts, what is appropriate and what is not appropriate to you. It may sometimes look something like, if somebody is trying to communicate a boundary to you, it may look like, pay attention to me while I'm speaking. Don't do something else when I'm speaking to you. Please pay attention to me. Or, I'm not comfortable with you speaking this way to me. I hope you can avoid it. Or, I'm not comfortable answering that question. I hope we can change the topic. So this is what boundaries could look like. Now, how do you set boundaries? So in order to set boundaries, self-awareness is a very, very essential component, whereby you learn about yourself, what you are comfortable with, what causes you distress. So what happens is, when you develop self-awareness, you will be able to articulate your boundaries better. You will be able to communicate them better. Certain boundaries can be negotiable, whereby you can make compromises and you can still feel safe and happy and healthy in that relationship. However, certain boundaries are non-negotiable, can be non-negotiable to you. It may include betrayal. Betrayal is, you may not be able to, that could be, that's probably a no for you in any relationship. So betrayal or violence, spiritual abuse, psychological or economic abuse, denying you of certain rights, all of these could be certain non-negotiable boundaries which you have. Now, what is negotiable and non-negotiable is for you to reflect and come up with. So the reason why we are setting boundaries is so that you are becoming your own gatekeepers. So that's what setting boundaries is about. Next, what are the benefits of healthy relationships? All right, so first is, healthy relationships encourage personal growth. Second, it helps you feel happier and stronger because you have a good network of healthy people. So in fact, having a good network of healthy people can actually act like an antidepressant. It can help build resilience in you, the psychological resilience. So even when you're faced with stressors in future, having a network of healthy people, healthy connections, relationships will help you remain grounded. Third, it decreases stress and it increases longevity. So what all does it do? Even physically, it has an impact. So in that, it lowers blood pressure, it strengthens immunity. In fact, interestingly, it said that lack of social relationships can have the same effect as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Now, when I came across this, I was kind of surprised. I was shocked. But to me, I'm not sure if this is exactly the same. They do say that, this is found by research. A study has shown it. However, we do understand that lack of social relationships does have a negative effect on us. Next, you feel authentic and supported in the relationship. So you kind of feel safe. Next, it encourages healthy behaviors. So you may work out together. Like now, let's say you want to make working out a regular habit. Doing it in groups or doing it with people in your social circle can have a greater impact. In that, you feel more motivated, you enjoy doing it, and you even do it consistently. So even if there are occasional failures, you don't give up. You still continue, persevere. You don't give up. Here in IYS also we do so many, we engage in several spiritually healthy behaviors. So we read, we have regular reading sessions, Prabhupada reading sessions, we have morning japa sessions. So all of this can actually be very inspiring. So I would request you all to join whenever you do have time. So the morning japa sessions are from 6 to 8. And about the reading sessions, the notifications would be shared in the group. So if you're not part of the group, I think the link would be shared. So please do join. The next one is relationships can help you meet your fun needs. So of course, we all would like to have fun also. So it's kind of fun and fulfilling having healthy relationships. Now, again, in IYS, so you may check how fun it is to participate in programs organized by IYS. So check with those people who have attended retreat programs or who come to temple, who dance, who sing for the deities, or who cook prasadam. So we have a restaurant also in ISKCON Chennai, Shuddha. So you will know what I mean. So how it is actually fun to have healthy people and doing something with them. So it can be very fun. So that way, IYS offers a healthy platform to build healthy relationships. So hence, make use of this opportunity to the best of your capacity. Last but not the least, as you may have already observed in the relationship analysis between Lord Ram and Ravana, we can undoubtedly conclude that the relationship with the Lord is the healthiest and most authentic. Hence, we need to perform devotional service to the best of our capacity. Our relationship with Krishna is a ship with a very strong anchor. So even when problems arise in the form of strong waves, under Krishna's shelter, we'll remain grounded and be able to withstand all those calamities and turbulences. So a strong relationship with Krishna gives strength to endure different situations with different people. So even if relationships with people around you may not be, you may have certain problems with them. When your relationship with Krishna is strong, then that helps act as a huge resilient factor. That's a protective factor, which can help you maintain your sanity amidst, so many chaos happening in your surroundings. So hence, never make your relationship with Krishna as a substitute to other relationships. So it's not that, this person doesn't talk to me, so therefore I'm turning to Krishna. No, relationship with Krishna is extremely of importance. Relationship with Krishna. So what we need to do is we kind of harmonize relationship with other people and our relationship with Krishna. So a relationship with Krishna is not a substitute. It isn't something that you prioritize in your list. It isn't something that should come in the last. It always needs to be in the top of the list. So constantly associate with the Lord through chanting his holy names and through reading his glories, through associating with his devotees. So that way, all of these would act as those pillars that support you when you feel like you are crumbling at times of stress. So with this, I would end my session today. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for the eye-opening session about relationships. And you have beautifully narrated examples from Srimad Bhagavatam and Ramayana. I hope this helps everyone to build their relationship wisely with others. It's really a wonderful session. Okay, next, shall we go for question and answer session, Mataji?
Yes, ma'am.
So I request, please ask some questions from the audience. You can type or you can ask. We are unmuting you. Anyone would like to ask questions? I think we have a question from Sri Priya. After starting a relationship, we sometimes speak some words which breaks it. How to overcome this?
After starting a relationship, so from if I am understanding you correctly, you're saying that sometimes in relationships, in new relationships, when you're just starting to get to know each other, you sometimes end up saying certain things which can kind of pose a threat to that relationship. Is that your question? So what do you do to avoid it?
Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji.
That's
Actually, we start a relationship. After it goes for a certain period, maybe we are angry or we are upset, we speak some words which hurts them. So how to overcome this? But we need that relationship to be maintained.
So yes, Shri Priya, sometimes what happens is being in those relationships, as I had mentioned, so if you are deeply invested in the relationship, if it is important, that is when strong emotions arise. So sometimes when we don't manage these emotions, what happens is we end up saying things which we would regret later. So which is where say if you can try some anger management strategies. So you can kind of go search and see what are the different anger management strategies. So when you have the urge to say something, when you have the urge to speak something, kind of hold back, especially when you're angry, like you're emotionally high at that point. Hold back, try to first process that anger. Maybe you can journal it down, write it in a paper, crush it, throw it. There are several strategies to manage anger. And once you are emotionally more calm, stable, and sometimes speaking to another person, probably a third person who's again kind of close to you, whom you can trust. So speaking to them also, it can help you give certain inputs. Like for instance, speaking to some devotees here, like you have mentors here. So speaking to them also can sometimes help you give inputs whereby you may be able to manage your emotions better. And once you are in a calmer state, then you can bring this up to them and kind of share that as a vulnerability to them, that you behaved in such and such way. Somehow I did not like it. Can we speak about it? Can we kind of sort it out, work through it? So that way, what you're doing is you're drawing a boundary. You're telling them, you're communicating to them that what they did to you was not okay to you. So that way, the communication becomes more healthy when you manage your emotions first and then you speak to them. So that way you can avoid.
Sure, Mataji. Sure. Thank you.
Next question from Sindhu. Why they say all relationships are not permanent? Is it true, and why so?
All relationships are not permanent. Yes, that is true. I think Krishna also states that in Bhagavad Gita, that everything here in this material world is temporary, and the same goes for relationships in the material world also. So even if some relationships can travel with you for a consistently longer period of time, maybe could be your parents, or could be your spouse, could be your children, or families, relatives. There is only a point, like they can only travel with you so far. They cannot travel with you after a certain point, and that permanent point after which they cannot travel with you is death. So yeah, relationships in this world are temporary. However, they do impact us, they do impact our bhakti. So therefore, it kind of becomes essential to manage these relationships so that that doesn't affect our relationship with Krishna. So though these relationships are temporary, it becomes essential to manage them.
Next question from Rohini. Hare Krishna Mataji. How can I kill my ego?
Oh, why would you want to kill your ego? All right. So by ego, I understand that you're referring to the sense of arrogance or pride. Okay. So trying to cultivate the quality of humility can help, whereby you start seeing that you do have certain limitations in you, uh, that you aren't all powerful, that you may not, you aren't all knower. You know, the person who's ideally supposed to be egoistic should be Krishna, because he's the controller, he's all powerful, he knows everything, he's the most beautiful, and yet we see how the Lord is very humble and very grateful. So this can help us, like you can kind of start reflecting and meditating on it, how as to how you as an individual have a lot of limitations. So that can generate a sense of humility in us. And going for personal work, going for counseling or therapy uh, can also work.
Hare Krishna. Next question from Bidisha. Mataji, how when we are emotionally high, being calm becomes very difficult and can't be able to focus in other works?
True, true. So that is one of the challenges of when you are emotionally high, when we get overwhelmed, uh, it is kind of initially difficult to manage it, because we get so overwhelmed, our mind gets so occupied with these emotions, these thoughts, that it kind of occupies all of your mind, so you wouldn't be able to think of anything else, you may not be able to do any other work. So yes, as you rightly pointed out, that's quite a huge challenge. uh, However, some of these challenges need to be managed when relationship is a priority to you. When your relationship with that person is important, when to you the other person is important to be cherished, then sometimes we hold back our impulses. So, which is where managing comes into picture. So, the moment you notice that you're being very emotionally high, that it's you're not static, like it's becoming uh, kind of volatile, then you may immediately kind of withdraw from the other person who has acted or behaved in a way or spoken certain things which has hurt you. So kind of withdraw from the other person, take some time and space for yourself. Yes, it may sometimes affect your other works, it may affect your relationships with others. If you are at home, it may affect your relationship with your parents or with your spouse. That too can happen. But again, as I had mentioned, try to distance yourself, like literally have the me time, distance yourself from everybody else in the social circle, take some space, because you are also important. The other work can be important but not as important as you are. So first and foremost, it becomes essential for you to manage your emotions. So one way you can do that is writing a letter to Krishna, like kind of journaling it down. So whereby you pour out all your emotions to him, like be it anger, be it sadness, grief, fear, whatever it be. So you kind of uncensored write down everything to Krishna, and allow yourself to kind of catharsize, like experience those emotions. You may even have bodily physical sensations. You are when you're expressing your fear, your heart may start palpitating. You may start becoming showing physical symptoms of anxiety, or when you are angry, you may be breathing heavily. When you're sad, you may cry. So allow yourself to feel those emotions first. And usually when you feel emotions, they over a point of time they calm down. They come down. The intensity comes down. Then it becomes more manageable.
Okay, next question. From Ravantika, how to maintain a relationship with a person who is more about themselves?
Okay. So if I understand your question, so you are asking how can you maintain relationship with a person who only thinks about themselves, who's kind of selfish, Yeah. All right. Thank you. Uh, so yes, relationships with these people can be quite challenging. And from what you were saying, to me, it kind of slightly screams of some toxic relationship. So if they are selfish, and if you have noticed that that pattern is consistent, that no matter what you do, they are not ready to appreciate you or take into consideration your feelings, then you can start off with setting realistic expectations, whereby you stop expecting things from them that you have learned you wouldn't receive. So you know with experience that they are not going to give importance to you. They probably may not wish you on your birthdays, or when you are expressing some vulnerability to them, they may dismiss you off. They may not give importance to your feelings. When you are sharing some success stories to them, they may kind of demean you or be mean to you. So in those instances, so with experience, you know that this is how this person is. So which is where we first accept. The radical acceptance is essential, that no matter what I do, I have done my best, I have given my best, but this person is not changing. And once the radical acceptance comes, you start setting realistic expectations, whereby your expectations with this person are very minimal, like bare minimal. I'm asking a question, my expectation is that person responds. That's it. At least a yes or no response. Not expecting that this person would empathize with me, would celebrate my victories. Not those high expectations. Those expectations are for healthy relationships. Relationships as these, which is kind of ego-centered or self-centered around just one particular individual, where we transact, keep our expectations very minimal. Instead, we start cultivating relationships with healthy people. So your needs, so it can sometimes also be challenging, whereby if you are in a relationship with a person who is selfish, so it's like you're almost ignored, or your needs are not met. So thereby you cultivate relationships with other people, healthy people, where your needs can be met. So that way, you don't feel very overwhelmed, burdened.
Yeah, very nice answer, Mataji. Thank you. Then any other questions? Anybody has questions? Next question from Lakshmita. Hare Krishna Mataji. Is it possible to make healthy relationship with non-devotees? I'm in my college and I feel hard to socialize with non-devotees. So sometimes I feel like there may be something wrong with me, and at times I end with self-envy. In which way I can handle this?
Fine. So you are in college. Okay. So sometimes uh, I mean, yes, devotees are usually comfortable with devotees, because you have that sense of belongingness in this community. You feel belong, you feel safe. Um, where you have common interests. The common interest of all of us is to serve Krishna. Our goal is to go back home, back to Godhead, and to serve Krishna there, please Him. So sometimes it kind of gets a little difficult in trying to interact with people who are not devotees, because you kind of don't really have the common interest. But again, as long as we are in this world, we also need to have relationships with people who aren't devotees. Um, so, because the population is more when compared to devotees. sometimes in the absence of a devotee circle, if you're not able to reach out to anybody, if non-devotees are the only people that you have, then you kind of don't really have another choice. So what you can do to help this resistance, help manage this discomfort when you're interacting with non-devotees is taking a non-judgmental stance, whereby you don't judge the other person through whatever you have learned in from scriptures. So you don't look at them from the judgmental point of view, whereby we kind of sometimes demonize them. Now let's say if they are, let's say, meat eaters, so we may sometimes have the tendency to demonize those people. How can they do this? So they are committing so many sinful activities, so we end up becoming judgmental. Having an attitude of being empathetic can help you there, because when you're empathetic, you take on the position, you put yourself in the shoes of the other person, whereby uh, you know that if you had lived the life of the other person, if you had lived the life of the non-devotee, probably you wouldn't be in Krishna consciousness. You may have also been like them. So you kind of accept them for the way they are, that they are who they are because of what they have been through, because of their past experiences. That is why they are like that. And we also remain open to the possibility that they may become devotees in future, if not in this life, in some other life, in some other birth, uh, maybe few births down the lane, they may become devotees, because that is the ultimate goal of all living entities in this world. Until and unless you come out of this material world, go back to Krishna, we would keep repeating the cycle here. So the ultimate goal is going back to Krishna. So at some point of time, they also need to become devotees of Krishna, and they would also go back to Krishna. So having that possibility in mind, that they already are a part and parcel of Krishna. They are also dear to Krishna, and they can be future devotees. That can also help. So in that way, you kind of become non-judgmental, and you kind of start feeling more comfortable with them. So you look at them as the spirit soul, the individual spirit, uh, without judging the bodily differences. Hope that helps.
Yeah, next question, Mataji. When two friends together decide to achieving same goal or goals in same path, but one's expectation stops me to reaching my goals, how to handle? Is it okay to be selfish to achieving goals? This is a question from Vidisha.
Can you repeat that question again?
When two friends together decide to achieving same goal or goals in same path, but one's expectations stops me to reaching my goals, how to handle? Is it okay to be selfish to achieving goals?
So that comes down to you defining how important that goal is to you. So if that goal is quite significant to you, if you have worked so hard to try to reach that goal, and if simply because of somebody else's expectations, that's kind of stopping you from reaching that goal, then see if you can draw a boundary there, where you communicate clearly to the other person that, look, I respect you, I respect your freedom to have opinions about me. But however, I would appreciate if you don't force that upon me, because I also have my goals, my dreams, and aspirations, and to me, these are important. So I wouldn't. I kind of find it a bit disrespectful, where you are stepping into, you're stepping in way of my goals. In reaching my goals, you're stepping in my way of reaching my goals. So I hope you avoid doing that. So somewhere where you're clearly communicating your boundaries. Like I hope you get what I'm trying to say. So if to you the goal is very important, then you communicate that to me. The goal is important. This is self-care.
Yeah, I just don't.
Again, the answer is quite generic. it's like, since you've asked me a general question, so I'm also giving you a general answer. I don't really know what are the personal dynamics involved.
Yeah. Next question, Mataji, from Rohini. How can I raise my children as Krishna conscious?
I think we should have a separate session on raising children, on parenting and raising children in Krishna consciousness. Again, I think Prabhupada here explains that, your children, especially if you're a devotee, then the children bond. I mean, there are so many other devotees here in this group who are more qualified to answer this question. But yeah, so Prabhupada often says that, children or devotees are Vaikuntha children. So which means first and foremost is we handle them with care, like almost when we are worshipping deities, when we are worshipping Krishna, how we handle them. We handle them with so much care, love and affection. So that is what it means to take care of children also. Like they are very fragile. To them, you are the world to them. You are their source of strength. They cannot trust anybody else in this world except you. So it's almost as if they're solely dependent on you. So we kind of meet their needs, whereby we make them feel safe, we make them feel cared, we appreciate them, we encourage them, and then gradually see what is it that the child needs and how does Krishna consciousness meet that need of the child. Now, let's say the child loves to draw. So, say if you can connect the child's skill with Krishna. So, the child loves having fun. Then, say, think of some creative ways where you can make the child have fun with Krishna. So, thereby, you gradually start introducing your child to Krishna, and then the attachment comes automatically. Krishna is all attractive, and our attachment is very innate. It's already there. It just needs some proper environment, proper circumstances and conditions.
Yeah. Next, any other questions? And I request everyone to fill the feedback form. This will motivate us to bring more life-challenging topics in future. Kindly fill the feedback form. Any other questions? Hare Krishna. Anybody has questions? Or if you want to ask, I can unmute.
There aren't any more questions.
I think if there are no more questions, we can end the session.
Fine. Thank you for
Yeah.
giving me an opportunity to take a session today. And thank you all for making the session interactive, for joining and making it interactive by asking questions. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. So everybody.